The careers of Kevin Durant and James Harden, why the reunion didn't work. On February 10th, 2022, Kevin Durant and LeBron James drafted their teams for the All-Star Game live on Inside the NBA. Earlier on in the same day, the Brooklyn Nets traded James Harden to the Sixers for a package centered around Ben Simmons. The rumors around the trade had been brewing for a while, and reports about James Harden not being satisfied with the culture in Brooklyn and not having the best relationship with KD. And Kyrie started surfacing as we drew closer to the trade. When the trigger was finally pulled and Harden was shipped to Philly, KD did everything he could not to choose James Harden on his All-Star team, which left the entire Inside the NBA team and LeBron James laughing uncontrollably.
Some defense in the interior.
Yeah.
Especially with Giannis and LeBron James
Without
playing
question.
such great basketball this year. I need somebody to offset that, so I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert.
I agree.
That worked out nicely for you.
That worked out nicely.
So how did KD and James Harden's long relationship unfold? And is there really bad blood between them? In this video, we'll talk about both players' careers, leading to their reunion in Brooklyn, and discuss why they just couldn't make it work. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome NBA content. In order to understand KD and Harden's relationship, and how things unfolded in Brooklyn, we have to go back to the good old days of Oklahoma City, when KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden were teammates. It almost seems unreal that these three former MVPs played together on the same team and won 0 championships together. The truth is, Kevin Durant and James Harden's careers had different trajectories when they were first drafted, even though they had big personalities. When Harden was drafted by Oklahoma City 3rd overall in 2009, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook had already started establishing themselves as the dynamic duo in the up-and-coming Thunder team. Harden didn't have a place in the starting lineup and had to settle for coming off the bench, basically started his career as the third wheel to KD and Russ. But then the Thunder shocked the NBA. In only their second season in Oklahoma, the Thunder won an impressive 50 games led by Durant, averaging over 25 points per game while shooting 47% from the field. Even though the spotlight was all on KD and Westbrook, Harden was also starting to prove himself and started getting more minutes off the bench. During those early days of Oklahoma City, when neither KD nor Harden had developed into the players they are today, their relationship was solid. They understood their role on the team and worked hard to win games. In his 3rd season in the NBA, KD upped his points per game to 30 and took the scoring title home, while coming second in MVP voting only to LeBron James. This is when the league started taking notice of Oklahoma City and Durant. Durant would win the scoring title again in 2011 and 2012 and led the Thunder to the finals in the 2011-2012 season, only to lose in 5 to LeBron James' Miami Heat. So far in their careers, Durant and Harden are developing into solid NBA players on a solid NBA team. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before Durant would be named MVP, and Oklahoma City won their first chip. This is where things get interesting. In the 2012 offseason, Oklahoma City had a decision to make. Serge Ibaka and James Harden's contracts were up for extensions, and being a small market team, they had to choose which player to pay. Eventually, they chose Ibaka, who was a starter on a team that went to the finals, over Harden, who was coming off the bench. That must have hurt Harden, but it was a business decision for Oklahoma City that would fuel Harden for the rest of his career. In October 2012, Oklahoma City traded James Harden to the Houston Rockets in one of the most impactful trades in NBA history. In hindsight, it seems like a crazy thing to do, but Harden wanted to be a starter and a stacked roster. OKC did him the biggest favor of his career. The trade shocked the NBA world, and on JJ Redick's podcast, KD said he was shocked to lose Harden, but being a younger player, he didn't focus much on the business side of the game. But when he saw Harden score 37 points in his debut in Houston, he wondered if Oklahoma City made the right decision. It seems that so far, KD and Harden have a working relationship, and there's no bad blood between them.
But then you see, because James came off the bench for us, and then you see how he plays as a starter. It was just like, hold up. Now, was that a good move? 4 or 5 years later, it was just like, even this first game, he had 37?
Yeah, 35 and 10.
12.
Like
All right, let's get into how Harden reinvented himself in Houston. In his first season with the Rockets, Harden averaged a career high of 26 points, up 10 points from his 16 points in Oklahoma City. The Rockets made it to the playoffs and lost in the first round in 6 to the Thunder. In 2013-2014, they added Dwight Howard and managed to win 54 games, but were also bounced out of the first round by the Blazers. In 2014-2015, Harden averaged career highs in points, assists, and rebounds and took the Rockets for the first time to the Western Conference Finals, but they lost in 5 to a Warriors team led by Steph Curry. Harden finished second in MVP voting that year, behind Steph. After a forgetful 2015-2016 season, where they barely made it to the playoffs and lost to the Warriors in the first round in 5 again, the Rockets added Mike D'Antoni, who was a turning point in Harden's career. D'Antoni moved Harden from a shooting guard to a point guard, a move that would eventually win him MVP. The Rockets surrounded Harden with shooters and let him play iso ball. Harden again managed to average career highs of 29.1 points per game, 11.2 assist points per game, and 8.1 rebounds per game. During this time, KD was also seeing his career blossom in Oklahoma City, without it leading anywhere. In 2013-2014, he averaged 32 points per game and finally won MVP. Oklahoma City couldn't get over the Spurs in the conference finals and lost in 6. 2014-2015 was also a tough season for KD. He fractured his foot and Oklahoma City didn't make the playoffs. In 2015-2016, Oklahoma City made it to the West Finals and held a 3-1 lead against Golden State, but they blew it in one of the most devastating meltdowns in history. This is where KD's drama starts, and the NBA world turns on him, making him one of the most hated players in the league. So far, both Harden and KD saw their careers blossom and became NBA superstars. Harden was an all-star every year since he was shipped to Houston, and KD won the scoring title 3 times, had 5 all-star appearances, and an MVP title. But still, both players couldn't make it to the finals after their run together in 2012. KD made the most infamous decision in free agency of 2016 and moved to the Warriors, the team that knocked Oklahoma City out of the West Finals. The media focused on his fallout with Westbrook, but Harden also felt snubbed. According to the reports at the time, Harden tried to recruit KD to Houston during free agency, but KD did not even meet with the Rockets. Harden took it personally and did not speak with KD after that. In fact, the two did not really speak until Harden was moved to Brooklyn, but we'll get into that in a bit. After KD was moved to Golden State, the Warriors won 2 championships in 2016-2017 and 2017-2018, and Durant was named Finals MVP twice. KD was accused of ruining basketball and destroying competition in those 2 years after joining a 73-win Warrior team. But the Rockets added Chris Paul, who fit in perfectly with Harden, and Houston looked like they could finally take on Golden State. The Beard finally won the MVP award that season, and the Rockets almost upset the Warriors in the West Finals. But then CP3 pulled a hamstring in Game 5, so the pressure was all on the Beard. The series went to 7 games, and to say Harden was disappointing would be a huge understatement. Harden faded under the spotlight of the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row. He shot 12 out of 29 from the field and 2 out of 13 from the 3, and the Rockets missed an infamous 27 consecutive threes. KD and Harden would face again in the 2nd round of the 2018-2019 playoffs and were bounced again, even though KD was injured. Harden once again did not perform when his team needed him most, and faded under the spotlight. This is a pivotal point in both players' careers. KD's relationship with the Warriors was starting to sour, especially with Draymond Green. Chemistry issues started surfacing, and even though KD won 2 chips, a lot of his peers did not give him the respect he deserved, and even his teammates made him feel expendable. It was time for KD's new chapter. After deliberating with his buddy Kyrie Irving, KD signed with the Brooklyn Nets in 2019, even though he had an Achilles injury that would sideline him for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Rockets traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook for a forgettable season that ended up as a short, failed experiment. Harden was getting frustrated in Houston after all these years of trying to get over the hump and reach the finals, so he decided to force his way out, and that's when talks with Brooklyn started heating up. In October 2021, James Harden joined Kyrie Irving and his former teammate Kevin Durant to form the scariest Big Three the NBA has ever seen. Now, we all know this experiment failed miserably and barely lasted a year, but let's go back before KD signed with Golden State. After Harden tried to recruit KD back in Houston, it seemed like the relationship went south. According to Kendrick Perkins, the two did not speak for years, and the lack of effort from KD did not sit well with Harden. In his debut press conference in Philly, Harden said that Philly was his first choice. Meanwhile, the Rockets say that they moved him to where he wanted to be. Either way, the issues immediately surfaced in Brooklyn. There were reports that James Harden's and Kevin Durant's relationship was so sour throughout the summer that they not even for a single day worked out in the same gym together. Someone close to the Nets was even quoted saying, "Kevin and James had a Cold War going on for the last several months that made everyone miserable." Apparently, KD was shocked at Harden's fitness level and the way he took care of his body. He was shocked that he lost his explosiveness and felt like he hadn't committed to the team. On the other side, Harden was annoyed with Kyrie's drama and the way the team played ball. All three stars need the ball in their hands to have an impact. And after coming from a team that centered around his style of basketball, Harden did not find the right chemistry with the Nets. He also complained about how the team treated KD and Kyrie, and did not feel like he was treated the same. When Harden was eventually traded to Philly, Kyrie wished him luck, and KD didn't really weigh in on the matter.
Oh, goodness. Now that's official, I think we could say our piece to James and wish him well. And, ultimately for me, I just want everybody to be happy and do things that they love to do.
I guess the Cold War between the pair is still going on. Harden is known to have an ego, and KD is definitely a sensitive person. Instead of their egos locking horns, the duo went to war. A Cold War. Either way, it could get very interesting if Philly meets Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. We could be seeing a whole new chapter in KD and Harden's relationship. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe. And check out our other videos from our awesome NBA content.